Okay, so we're up to Perek Mem Beis Pasuk Chavtes. Vayavoyu al Yaakov Avihim Outza Kenoan. They came back to Yaakov their father. They came into Yaakov their father to the land of Canaan. So they returned us to Yaakov their father. The Pasuk stresses they came to Yaakov. Indeed, the story is going to, in a certain sense, revolve around Yaakov, because after the report, when Yaakov is going to respond, two things are going to happen. They're going to report what happened, and they're going to discover the Kesef in each person in his sack. And Yaakov is going to talk all about himself. He's going to be very self-centered. Oisi shikaltem, not right? Oisi shikaltem. Alai hayu chulana. So it's all about him. The story is going to end up being all about him, and it starts, they came back to him. Vayagidu loy, meaning to say, the pasuk could have said they came home. They came back to their families, right? They were bringing food for a lot of people. But the pasuk, it's about Yaakov. It's focusing, return to Yaakov, report to Yaakov, and Yaakov says, you're bringing me to ruin. You're bringing all these terrible things upon me. Vayagidu loy eis kol hakoros osam lemar. So they told him, they recounted to him all the things that happened to them. Okay, so what does koros mean? Things that were kara, things that happened. Malbim Ksava Kabbalah pointed out that there's a similar lashon. There's a different way to express recounting things that happened, and that's at the end of very basic Yeshua, where the Meraglim returned from Yerichai, and there it says they told him Kol HaMoitzos, Kol HaMoitzos, is Kol HaMoitzos. Okay. So he and the Ksava Kabbalah and the Malbim both say the same thing, that koros is related to a mikra. It's like things that happen with no rhyme or reason. So they're telling him, when they tell him Kol HaKoros, it's a way of saying that all sorts of strange things happen. Shenkin, something that was expected, could be called moitzos. Although moitzos also maybe has that connotation, I'm not sure. But akaponim, they connect koros obviously to mikra. And like we say the same thing in English, right? It happens. Something just happens. Things happen. As in, not things that you make happen, not things that are done with intent, but this is what happened, right? So now, like weird things happen, strange things happen, this is their report of it. And this leads into Yaakov being concerned at the end of this parak, in the last pasuk, pasuk lamed ches, is concerned to crow asain. Because they come back saying all sorts of kairos, so all sorts of strange things happen, then maybe another mikra is going to happen. Mikra of asain. So he's afraid to send binyan. About things that happened? Yeah. Rois. Right? That pasuk. Is that pasuk? It's open. So I guess it's like things that are looking for their target. I guess that's like things that are supposed to happen, and they found their destiny. They found the destined ones, I guess. You have to look into that. Yeah, Uhurois, Rabbis, Vitzoris. In Devarim, do you have this mikra? Right, in Vayikra is all about carry, right? No, mikra lies in Devarim. No, I'm just wondering. No, I was wondering if in Devarim you have this kara, as you have in Vayikra. Kara for happenings. No, like in Devarim you have a mutzaucha, katzalach mutzaucha.
Can't support.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So then, right. So we're worried about koros. So there could be another kara. Okay. Now, the pasuk says they told Yaakov all that happened to them lemar, and then there's a bunch of psukim. 1, 2, 3, 4 psukim, which are a retelling of, 5, right? Lemar is lamed, lamed al, lamed bez, lamed gimel, lamed dal. Yeah, so 5 psukim, where they're retelling what happened. Now the truth is, and this is what Bag points out, that if the next 5 psukim would be an exact retelling of what happened, then the Torah wouldn't write them. So they told him what happened. But as we're going to see, they told him a certain version of the events. So that's after we read the psukim. They recounted everything that happened, saying the following. And now you have to look closely at how they say the story, and you'll see that it's not quite the way it was described the first time. If it was exactly as it was described the first time, or even just slight variations because of repetition, then the Torah wouldn't repeat it. It would just say they told him what happened. They told him what happened. Or whatever. But no, they told him everything that happened lamar, meaning lamar means here's how they said it. And now we have to look, as we shall see, it's basically parallels, and you'll see almost everything has a parallel in the event, in the narrative of the events, but then there are some significant changes which give it a certain angle, give it a certain twist. Okay. So that is like pasuk Zayin, Vaidaber itam kashes. Okay, fine. Vayite resanu kimragel mesaretz. That same pasuk. Not that same pasuk. Next pasuk tes, two pasukim, pasuk tes, meragel matem. Except that they said kimeragel. Yosef's told them meragel matem, with a certainty. It's kaveh that they are meragel. They declared they are meragel, and they said he treated us kimeragel, which suggests that they were sort of softening it up. They're saying he took an approach that we're meraglim, or he suspected that we're meraglim. We may have been meraglim, and we shall see that this presentation they're presenting to Yaakov as if there was some sort of suspicion of meraglim, as opposed to this assertion that they are in fact meraglim. That continues weiter. So they're making it a little bit more, a little bit less severe than it actually was. So this is like pasuk Yud Aleph. Except they leave out the word avadecha, and that's significant. They leave out the word avadecha here, and they leave out the word avadecha in the next pasuk where they say Shnei Masar anachnu achim b'nei avinu. That takes us back to pasuk Yud Gimel, where they say Shnei Masar avadecha achim anachnu. Okay, why did they leave out avadecha? So this the Torah says because what happened ultimately with Binyamin. He doesn't say it quite like this, but basically he says they don't want to say that they told him Avadecha, because if they're going to quote that they told the Adonai Haaretz that they are 12 Avadecha, then he has a claim that, so give me the little one, he's also my Eved. If they pledge that they're all as Avadim. And I add, that's what the Torah says, but I would add, because that's actually what happened. It actually happened to Binyamin. The risk to Binyamin was that the parasha ends that Yosef said, Hu yeli Aved, atem alu l'shalom avichem. So eventually he's going to have a claim on Binyamin to keep him as an Eved. So they didn't want to tell Yaakov that they told him, that they called all 12 of them your servants, because that's going to increase the danger that maybe he's going to have some claim on Binyamin, as indeed he did. That was ultimately his claim on Binyamin, was I want to keep him as my Eved.
Because he's
So,
stole.
Seder, but they didn't want to. They didn't want to. You're right. They didn't want to give any Pesach to say to any suggestion. The Yaakov would say, basically, they want Yaakov to send Binyamin, right? So they have to make it sound like everything's fine, everything's safe. So they couldn't make like that they gave too much. In other words, if they said they called themselves avodim to him, that means they're basically telling him they were comforting him more. They were pledging that he owns them, that he has rights over them. So by leaving it avodim, what?
It really means it's more the type of saying that I'm but.
Yeah, but you say it in certain circumstances, probably. You say it, right? I don't know if they have to say it. No, not a claim. It's if Yaakov is trying to divine from their report what the tone was, how much was there really a risk? How much did you feel like he has a claim, like he has something over you that he's a threat? The Avodecha gives something away. If they did or didn't say Avodecha, that changes the nature. The connection that I was saying with Binyamin, the claim of Hu Yeli Aved, I was saying that more as like as a drasha, that you see that yes Avodecha or not Avodecha ends up being very important. That was my point. Not as a practical thing. That if they said the word Avodecha, then that's going to give him a claim. Saying Avodecha indicates some sort of hachna and kinyan, and he has rights over them. Especially the fact that they would koilel all the brothers in Avodecha is suggesting that he had something over them, the whole family, and specifically because that's taka what happened, that Binyamin was taken to be an Eved.
They also don't mention that they said Avdecha Avinu.
They didn't say that yet, right? No, they didn't say that. That's
No,
later.
they didn't say it.
That's in the beginning of
That's
Vayigash, right? That's the beginning of Vayigash. Right. The other difference is here.
It's interesting why it changes. The first time they didn't say what that Chavinu. After what we did.
Yes, we have to figure that out, right? Another change here is that they said in Pasuk Aleph were Bnei Ish Echad, and when they repeated it, they said Bnei Avinu. That's probably because they're talking to him, so they call him Avinu instead of just saying Ish Echad. Okay, so we're up to Pasuk Lam Beis. Shnei anachnu achim b'nei Avinu. Ha'echad einenu v'akatoin hayemes Avinu be'etz Kenan. That's like we have in Pasuk Gimel. The order is reversed. Fine. Is there a reason for that or not? I don't know. Vayomer eleinu ha'ish adonai ha'aretz. B'zayis eda kichein matam. So this takes us to the zayis is like Pasuk Yitches zayis asu. Kein matam is Pasuk Yites and kein matam. But this eda is new. The word eda is new. Yosef didn't say, here's how I'm going to know. He told him, bring him back, and Pasuk Chav says, via omnu devrechem, and that will give your words faith, truth, right? They quoted him as saying, Bezois Eda, do this and this, ve'eda, I'll know it, which goes along with what we said before, that they presented it that he had a suffix. And as if he said, I want to know. It's not sufficient for me that you present a good case, and you seem like nice, trustworthy people. I want to know. That's how they presented it. B'zayis Eda. Really, he told them, B'zayis Tivachenu. And he omnu devrechem. I don't consider what you said to have any nemanas until you... Right. So they're softening it up. And then this brings us to something which is maybe an outright addition, or something that didn't happen. As achichem etein lachem. Okay, that he didn't say, but that follows. It follows. He didn't say that. That's okay. Which one? No, I mean, no, oh yeah, right. Sorry, right? I was jumped ahead. I jumped from one Kain Matam to the next. Okay. Achichem echad anichu iti. Achichem echad is like Pasuk Yites. That's avim batechem chuvaleich. That's the end of Pasuk Yites. Vavios achichem akoton elai. Now we're back to Pasuk. That brings us back to Pasuk Chaf. Ve'eda akilem raglam atem kichein matem. Okay. As achichem etein lachem. Ve'es aretz tischaru. So they end on a very positive note. That he said, I'll give you back your brother, and aretz tischaru. Now, if aretz tischaru means you'll do trade with us, which is what tzchar usually means, Yosef didn't say anything about that. And the Ramban says he didn't say that. And they were shinu b'nei Shalom. Ramban says they made it up. They made it up, b'nei Shalom. They wanted Yaakov to think that everything was rosy.
It sounds more convincing that he's not really...
Yeah, he's very nice to us, and yeah, he really wants to do business with us. He's excited about it, but he has a suffix, and we have to prove it, right? And that's why you see, going back to Pasuk Chav Tes, Vayigidulu is kol hakayris oisam. First of all, they didn't tell him kol hakayris oisam because they didn't tell him they found the kesef in the Maloin by one of them, right? One of them already found the kesef. They didn't tell him that. They didn't tell him he first locked them all up, and then 3 days later said, okay, you know what, Beseda, you could all go home. And even the things that they did tell him, they told him in a very positive light, right? And maybe they added something that didn't happen. According to Ramban. That's also right. He didn't say that, but that's at least okay. That's made it positive, right? Aretz tischaru was an addition that didn't happen. I just want to finish. Rashi says though, Aretz tischaru. Rashi says that Aretz tischaru means you should go. You'll be able to go around to Saivavu. The reason why Rashi says that is because Rashi is reading it that they're not adding something that didn't happen. So he's just telling them, I'll give you freedom of motion. Because you locked them up, and you meraglim are not allowed to be regal, they can't walk around. Freedom of movement, right? There's a risk of being arrested, so Aretz tischaru means I'll let you have freedom to move around the land. So Rashi, the reason why Rashi explains tischaru here that way, which is different than it usually means, Ramban doesn't usually mean that. Rashi says that because Rashi is trying to read this back into the story. Where did this happen? Oh, because it was a risk of being arrested, and if they're meraglim, he's not going to let them walk around. I'll let you walk around. Yeah, David, you want to say something?
No, I think it's by Shem, doesn't say the idea of scharo.
Yeah. Shvu
So
scharo.
that's a type of like making like a certain type of level of
Well, like a cooperation. Yeah.
So the idea
You're welcoming
is to get
them.
to that level afterwards.
Yeah.
Like by Shem.
Yeah.
Just to show that you're.
Yeah. Who are the Mitzrayim? Why not? Because they moved them around.
To particular places.
Interesting.
At least the peasantry did.
Interesting. Even the peasantry didn't. Even the Egyptians, the native Egyptians didn't. Interesting. Okay, so Lamaisa in the presentation of the brothers, nish gefrelach, right? Lo nara. So they need to convince Yaakov that everything is not as bad as it actually is, because they need to send Binyamin. They know he's very close to Binyamin, and if he, basically they realize that if he senses the risk and danger, he won't send Binyamin, which is indeed what happened. But before that happened, before something went awry, they presented everything in a rosy light, and expecting him to say, okay, take Binyamin and everything will be fine.
Why weren't they worried?
So again, one second, but remember, see how sharp this is. They told him, that doesn't mean they told him everything that happened. It means they told him a report that's supposed to reflect everything that happened. This was their report. Here's our official report of everything that happened. Lamar left out things, maybe added things. That's what's going on, okay? Everything's going fine. Their plan is going just as planned. So before we get to that pasuk, you understand now what's happening. The reason why the pasuk is here before Yaakov answers them is because the point of this pasuk is this is what made everything go wrong. All of a sudden Yaakov realizes that it's not quite as optimistic. Clearly there's something more going on over here. Clearly there's some major danger from this Adonai Haaretz, and something very suspicious is happening, and they're not telling me the full story. They're not telling me how, because they made it sound like not so bad. It's obviously a lot worse. We'll do that pasuk next week, but some people read in that pasuk that Yaakov is choshid them. He's blaming them. All of a sudden he's blaming them for Shimon, he's blaming them for Yosef. Basically, he doesn't trust them anymore. According to that pasuk, according to that reading, he doesn't trust them anymore because they lied to him. They lied to him. Why should they lie to him? What?
They made a mistake by taking out the money. They should have waited.
No, they didn't know it was there. They didn't know it was there.
Oh, they never
One of them, right? What happened was like this. Levi, right? Shimon was in jail. Maybe, right. Right, no, right. Now, the pasuk of Zion, we have, right. One of them found it already, because he, for some reason, decided to feed his donkey in the Malayan, which we spoke about last time. Why was one of them feeding his donkey? It's still a good question. We'll get back to that a little bit tonight. But then, right, and then the rest of them discovered it, because they were emptying it out, and boom, they each had a bundle of kesef. They're busted. They and their father saw it, and they were afraid, and their father realized that they're more afraid than they presented it. So he doesn't trust them anymore. And in fact, he starts suspecting that maybe they killed Yosef, maybe they killed Shimon, and he's done with them. His mom is done with them. He's done with them ad kedei kach that if you look at pasuk, the last pasuk lamed ches, he says, he calls Binyamin Bani, and says he's the only one left. What about everyone else? Basically, that he doesn't consider them his children anymore. I mean, that's what the pasuk is indicating. Big insult, right? Reuben says, "Shnei banai tamis," and he says, "Lo yir b'ni imachem." My son is not going with you. Like you're not my sons. He disowned them, effectively. And this is after they told him this.
How does Yaakov finish the story? The story actually happened.
Something more happened. No,
he doesn't know.
He doesn't know what to do. He has
the money,
he can't trust them.
The money,
Oh, maybe they're framing him. Maybe the Adonai Haaretz is framing them. Perhaps.
That's okay.
I don't know.
But it's not going to the level to say that he went there and killed.
Well, no, but it means that they're not being truthful to him. It means they weren't truthful to him because the way they presented it, things shouldn't be this bad. The way it actually happened, it was a lot worse. It was irrational, and there's another irrational thing that's happening. But they presented it as he's basically rational. He needs us to verify that we're legit. So what's going on?
But now you're all these things are going wrong.
Now all of a sudden I don't trust. Right now,
I can't trust you.
That's it. It's it. You're right.
Maybe you're guilty of something. Maybe you're just
Yes.
unreliable.
Yeah, you are ganging up against me. Yeah. You are bereaved me exactly. It's you against me, and you ruined everything for me. That's a big climatic thing. Okay, now let's talk about pasuk lamed hey. Okay, so they're emptying out their sacks, and each one has the tzor kesef in a sack, and they see the tzor kesef along with the fathers, and they are afraid. Now, twice there's a discovery of of the kesef that was planted to frame them, right? One is in pasuk Zayin, where one of them opens a sack. There, only one of them opens a sack. One of them opens a sack. Los is mispelach hamar b'malan, as we discussed last time. It's not so pashut to open your sack because what is he opening his sack for? Because he has to feed his chamor. But he filled up their sacks. Take a look at pasuk Chafei. He filled up the kalim with bar, and put the kesef into the sack, and gave them tzedel aderech. So why does he have to open a sack? So in the other ones did not open the sacks on the malayim because they had tzedel aderech. In addition to the sacks being full, that includes the animals. So for some reason, one of them was opening his thing b'malayim, right? That's what, and it's not clear why. The Ramban says everyone else is feeding their donkeys teven. He wanted to feed him from the sack, which I guess is the grain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is that?
Why is it interesting? Someone else says,
Why
I
would you
think.
do it also?
You want your donkey to eat high quality stuff? Maybe, I don't know. I have some sort of, not really a theory, but we'll see. Maybe something to say about that. Others say that
By the way,
Levi
he did that with.
Levi was Torah because it was Levi, and he right because it says ha'echad, vayishpach ha'echad esakoi because it's Shimon of Levi Achim, and Ishel Achim is Shimon to Levi, and Shimon is in jail, so now ha'echad is Levi, says the Medrash, and he was the one who was most Torah because Shimon, his buddy, was kept behind, so maybe he didn't prepare for his donkey in advance or something like that. Okay, what are you gonna say?
Again, if you give the Kodesh to that's Machal Adam to Behema, that's considered
Machlekes.
destroying.
Machlekes, right? Who just said it's Michael Adam?
Maybe you're not supposed to.
And it's interesting what that is. Chitim is not good for Shara, but it says Seri Mizrah. It's better than.
For sure, for no.
This is Chamor, right?
It's Chamor.
It's Chamor.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, also bar is bar necessarily wheat? I don't even know if that bar is wheat. Does bar have to be wheat? Okay.
And then barley.
So Lamaisa like this. Lamaisa. So we have to understand like this. We have to understand what do we need. There's two questions here, right? We have to understand two questions. First of all, if we're trying to understand this whole story over here, so we have to understand what is the function of the returning the kesef. What is this here for? What is, in other words, really two levels of kesef question. Like, why is Yosef doing this to them, and what does it contribute to the total limud of the story? Question number one. Question number two, that we spoke about last time, and we'll talk about again. But question number two is, why is this happening twice? Why is it? What does it do for the story that it's happening twice? Okay? Say it. Why? And the first time it happens to one of them. What?
Also, what do you think once it happened once?
Right. And it happens once to one of them, and that happens individually, not in front of Yaakov, but then it happens to all of them, and there's like a different story, and they're shocked about it. Yeah. They should have checked the first time. Right. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
So
Okay.
the answer is Fiyam Tachta, and these were not necessarily Fiyam Tachta.
Right. That could be also right. Okay. So here's what we spoke about last time. What happened when they found the kesef was that they said they got afraid, and they said Mazais Asel Kim Lonu. Okay, and similarly, the second time when they discovered it, in Pasuk Lamed Hey, it says Vayiro. So he caused them to be Chored and Yoreh, and he caused them to say, "What is Hashem doing to us? What is God doing to us?" Okay, fine. So now, as we discussed last time, we won't go into the riots again, but as you all know, well, we'll get to that in a moment. Basically, Yosef is leading them to a situation of Yira. Yosef told them, "Asalakim ani Yoreh." Asalakim ani Yoreh, that's the turning point. He tells them, "Zosasu v'chiyu asalakim ani Yoreh." And then what next thing happens in the story, he brings them to a situation where they experience Yira too. Okay? So he's teaching them they have to be Yirei Elikim. What's the significance of being Yirei Elikim? What's the limud? What's the lesson of being Yirei Elikim? So what was the expression of the Yirei Elikim? Mazais asalikim lon. Recognizing that Hashem is doing something that you don't understand. Right? That's what he brought them to a situation of knowing that Elikim is doing things that to you are mazais, you can't explain. And this, as we've been discussing again and again, is Yosef's mahalach. Yosef's mahalach is, we don't understand Hashem, let Hashem do his things, and we have Yira, because Elikim, as the pasuk says in Kehelas, Elikim Hashemayim v'ator ala oretz, and then it says further, Elikim Yira, We don't understand Hashem. Rather, Hashem is transcendent. He's in the heavens. We can have dreams. Dreams have an inkling of Hashem, but it's not that we could know Hashem like Nevi'im. Instead, we have Yira, and Hashem will do whatever He's doing without us understanding it. And indeed, in this story, that's what happened. They were led to something happening to them, which l'chayra looks like a terrible thing, but ultimately ends up being a good thing. Ultimately, it's Yosef doing it, and even Mazay Sasa Lekim Lanu is wait a second, is Lekim doing it? It's Yosef that did it. But that's the whole what's the whole punchline of the Yosef story is that he's going to tell them, La Atem Shlachtem Osi Eina Kia Lekim, meaning things that humans do are really Hashem's doing because we don't understand anything and we just go through the motions. So similarly, even though Yosef planted this, and it's really Yosef pulling the strings, and they say Mazah says Lekim Lanu, are they wrong? No, because the lesson is Gufa that what people are doing is really Lekim doing because no one knows what they're doing anyways, and Hashem is just using His people, and accept that. The other thing we spoke about last week is that last year is that the lashon Gam Hine was like Yosef's dream. Kama alumasi v'gam nitzava Hine kama alu Hine sisubena, right? Kama alumasi v'gam nitzava Hine sisubena. Okay, so it's basically he's making them into a bunch of dreamers. It's like a dream sequence. They go into display with weird things are happening, and he's making them dreamers like just as he is. He wants them to learn the midah of Yira. Okay?
Because it says Hine.
Yeah, and the gam, husha the gam, like kama alumasi v'gam nitzava. Okay. Okay, so if you take a look at Kehelas Perek Hey, where we see this idea very clearly, let's look at those psukim again. Kehelas Perek Hey begins, Al tevahel al picha v'libcha al yimahel ha'itzidav l'fnei alekim. Ki ha'alekim ha'shamayim ha'ta'ala etzakinu levecha me'atim. So don't be quick. Your heart shouldn't be quick to say a davar. L'ha'itzi davar. Here the pasuk says, "Vayetze libam," their heart went out, and they said, "Mazay sas alikim lanu." And there it says in Kehelas, your heart should not quickly be mitzi davar. In other words, don't be quick. Your heart shouldn't go out and say what's going on because you don't know what's going on. So here too we have Vayetze libam. Normally, if the lave is not yetze, then the lave is mitzi davar. Lave stays where it is and it knows what it thinks about it and it's able to produce. Vayetze libam is they couldn't figure out what's going on. So that's like libcha alimay loitzi davar, and they said mazos asalikim lanu, which is exactly the right approach. Don't be moitzi davar, just say mazos. Don't try to explain it. Why? Ki elikim hashemayim atala aretz. And then next pasuk talks about chaloim, because that's the midah of chaloim as we've been discussing. And Yirmiyah, who's opposed to chaloim, it says Hashem alois hashemayim v'esatz ani molei. Not like this pasuk. So fine. Next, I would add pasuk dalid. Perhaps as the Shaykhis it is, because we'll see later in the parak it does too. Don't say things that cause chait on your family, which may be Yaakov munning them. Why do you tell them they have a brother, perhaps? But so the next thing is don't tell the malach it's a shkagahi. Yaakov said, okay, take back the money, ulai mishkehu. What's the big excuse? Ulai mishkehu. Not a good thing that you got to the state where you have to beg ignorance. Lama yikutzev elikim, fine. Kiyas elikim yira, pasuk vav. The main thing is elikim yira. That's what Yosef is teaching him. As elikim ani yarei, and he leads them to be yarei themselves. Okay, fine. Now the next psukim could also be niddush on this, but we're going to go to pasuk tes. Okay, so we understand so far. Now again, so what do we understand so far? We understand so far the whole function of the kesef. Returning the kesef puts them into a state where they're afraid. And that's what Yosef was teaching them, that being afraid of Hashem is the right stance, and not knowing what's going on is the right stance, and eventually it's all going to end up being for the good. Okay? That's his good for teaching them to accept his approach, basically. But the question we're left with is why twice, right? Why does it have to happen twice? What's the idea that's happening first to Levi and the Malayin?
Ultimately, this thing is just teaching them that you don't know what's going on.
Right.
Not this specific event didn't turn out.
It did. Oh.
Good for them in the end.
Well, it did.
Just during the
they saved money.
event. Oh. Yeah?
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. I'll tell you what. There's another lesson over here. Because what are they going to learn from the whole story? What's Yosef going to tell them? I was sent to Mitzrayim to support you.
Right.
So therefore they're not paying.
Oh,
So it's
that's
significant.
included in the-
Yeah,
in the-
I think so.
in the-
Yeah, because why are you
in the-
paying me?
In the end game, this is also
Right. In other words,
Yeah.
if they have an opportunity because there's a Rav Mitzrayim, because it happens to be Sav Mitzrayim,
Right.
the way they're looking at it as, okay, there's a hunger, there's food in Mitzrayim, we'll go to Mitzrayim, we'll pay for it.
And we'll come back.
But really, you don't understand the whole purpose is I should be here to support you. So why are you
Right.
paying for it?
And
I'm
you're
here.
part of my.
Yeah, you're part of the whole plan. So that's why. So he's looking at it from a whole different perspective.
Right.
You think you're coming to buy from me? Really, I'm here to give it to you. So what do you keep your money? So that's also the money is very significant. It's not stam. It's not stam as
A
I
way
think.
of showing them.
Yeah, it's a way of showing that they don't even understand
Well,
why they went down to
It's
Mitzrayim,
already
why
happening.
Yosef is in Mitzrayim and everything. Right.
The
So
entire story from the beginning, from before they sold him, when the dreams and on, was also that he could be there to support them.
was also he can give them the two, and now you're paying me for it. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Right. The reason I'm here is so that I was right. I'm supposed to be a dreamer. I'm supposed to be in charge of lechem. You were supposed to sell me lechem, whatever. But you weren't. I'm saying that, like, you weren't, but Hashem wanted you to anyways. Whatever, however that works.
But,
And then I'm here to give you tools, so don't give me money.
but now he's actually changing what he said before.
Why?
Because the fact that they're bowing to him is only Aga, his real purpose is to serve them.
Right. So what is he changing? What do you mean?
When he told the dreams, he didn't know that.
I don't know what he knew. How do you know? I'm not sure. Oh yeah, well yeah, he wanted to do the star. Right. No, he had to learn Avdus. Right. That's what we spoke about. That Yosef, in order to become a king, you have to learn to be an Eved, as they told Rechavam. To want to be a good king, you have to be an Eved. More in Hurrius. Svar is really Avdus. So Yosef was not ready to be a Melech until he was an Eved, because originally he was this young Nar who was lording it over everyone else and thought he was going to be a special guy. And some king he was. No one's Mekana, this kingship, that he ended up being a king through being an Eved, right? So that's the point. The point is that to be a good king, you have to first be an Eved, right? So now he's ready to serve them. Correct. Very good. Okay. So the question is, okay, so fine. Say that why is it important that it's happening twice? Okay, now let's go weiter in Keheles. He has a lot to say about wealth. Let's start a pasuk Tes. Oyev kesef lo yizba kesef. So he who loves kesef will not be satisfied with kesef. Now, what does this mean? If someone loves hamoin, which means masses or a lot of something, he will not have tvua. Okay, there's different ways to touch what the pasuk is saying. But basically, same way the relation of the pasuk says that a person loves kesef, he's not going to love kesef. So someone who loves hamoin will not have tvua. He'll use up his tvua. He's not going to have enough tvua. Fine. Now, let's talk about the next pasuk. I want to go back to something we had in the beginning of the parasha. Here it says like this: when there's a lot of good, there's a lot of people to consume it. So what does the owner of the good have? In other words, let's say someone's very wealthy. Say there's a lot of tova. Okay, you know what's going to happen is going to be a lot of people are going to come and going to consume it. A lot of people to support. They'll find him. So what does he gain from it? Ki imrus einav. All he gains is that he could look. He could see. He could see good things happening. That's what he has from it. Okay. If the usher could be consumed with the sova and he can't sleep. And then right there, the pasuk says Yudbeis that sometimes says usher shamul levolov or usher could be shamul levolov and it could end up harming him, and he could lose his usher and nothing. Say that. So the pasuk tells us a bunch of things about usher. If you love kesef, you don't have enough kesef. It tells you that the purpose of a ribu tova is only to really is going to be rabu echleh. You're not going to get anything from it except that you'll see good things happening. You'll watch. You'll see. Oh, I have a nachas that I'm able to be in front of Saniyim, whatever, something like that. And Batsim being wealthy makes you not be able to sleep, and sometimes the wealth ends up hurting you. Okay?
This
Go ahead.
matches what you were saying about Yosef.
How's that?
Saying that I have all this, I have this power and wealth.
To give
so
it
that
out.
I can
Okay, very good. So let's talk about that. We spoke about this in the beginning of Parshas Miketz. In the beginning, this idea, this pasuk that says, this comes in the beginning of Parshas Miketz. Where, what happens in the beginning of Parshas Miketz? Yosef tells us Parah Yerefare. And Parah said, Lo ra'isi. I never saw such bad cows. Okay? So it goes like this. There's all the fat cows, but Rabu Echleho. In other words, you see 7 fat cows. Say the Rabu Echleho. There's 7 other cows that consume them. So Makish and Leveleh. What does Parah have? There's his dreams about wealth. Corresponding his dreams about the Rav. So what's Parah going to have from it? Kiyim Ra'us Einov. And that's what Yosef tells him, Yerefare. That means, and he says, Kim Oysa Herolefare. It means Hashem is giving you the ability to see something cool happening. What? That you could take the Sava of the 7 years and use it for the Rav. And what's he going to gain from this? Nothing. right? The way Yosef told him, and to use the 7 years of Sava for the 7, he's not going to get any richer after 14 years, right? Because you'll have 7 good years, we'll have 7 bad years. So you have 7 years of Ashirim, 7 years of Aniyim. All you're going to get is Roseinav. As Hashem means Hashem is showing you a vision of Toiv, of how to do Yosher, how to do Toiv, which is to take the good years and give them to the bad years.
You look at it, you'll be able to do it. If not, then you lose.
Right, you have to see it. Right, you have to see it. You have to see it. You have to understand. It's important to see because otherwise you're going to abuse it. What? Wait, what? He ends up gaining.
Yes.
Wait, we'll get that in a second. Right, exactly. So in other words, right, you have to see it. You have to see it. Because if you don't recognize that the Aisher is there for the Eichlim, then you use up the Aisher, and then Eichlim are not going to have food, and then you messed up. So you have to see this. You have to understand it. Right. So that's Hera Lefara, Yera Fara. It's very important to see, to perceive something. And then the pasuk says also in Kehelas that the Aisher is Shamal Lebal of the Ra'asai, which you remember the pasuk says that they took the Tfu and they were Shomer it. And all this wealth that ends up accruing to Paro is Levra Asai because it ends up going to Yisrael. It's another idea. The whole wealth of Mitzrayim ends up being to Bizas Mitzrayim, goes to us. Fine. Now, so what's the whole big deal of having Aisha, Reves Atayva, Rabbi Echleha, and all he gets is Roseina, right? But ultimately, as Ram says, Yosef did make Paro fabulously wealthy. He didn't just do this scheme where he divided the Sava, the Aisha, for the 7 years of Rav. He waited till everyone needed food, and then he hiked the prices, and he bought them all out, such that the Navi equates him to people that sell their brothers or the poor for shoes. Right, that's Amos Perek Ches, who has this claim. Amos Perek Ches, pasuk Dalet and on, has this claim against the people that abuse the poor, and say, let's wait till time passes, and then we'll open up the markets, the grain. And that we showed in the psukim by Yosef, where they came to Paro, and they said, what should we do? And he said, go to Yosef. And then it says, okay, then it was really bad, and they came to Yosef. And Yosef waited until things were really bad, and that's when he started selling. Why? Because he wants to make money. Next pasuk in Amos, Ches pasuk Rav. Liknos ba'kesef dalim ve'evin ba'avurna alayim. They're willing to sell the poor person for shoes, which is like the Shvatim sold Yosef and bought shoes. Can you do it? It's the beginning of Amos, where it says Michra ma'kesef tzadik ve'evin ba'avurna alayim. Umapal bar nashbir. And they want to give the bar, the shever, this old Lashonis of shever and bar. It's come from Mikates, and all these psukim we've been here a million times in Amos Perek. But the point is, Amos equates what the Shvatim did to Yosef, abused Yosef, and used him to become rich. Esrim Kesef. You know why it's Esrim Kesef? Esrim Kesef, I have tonight. It's Esrim Kesef because Eser is Oisher, and Esrim is double Oisher. So it means like it's they're really into the Oisher. This is what it's about. There's a Betza. Into Betza. And Esrim is like a number saying, oh, these guys are really into Oisher. Yeah. What?
Okay. Why is it double? Just
because I think yeah. What do you mean why is it double?
Oisher.
Asara is Aisher and Esrim is 2 times Aisher. So I'm saying to say someone is very greedy, say he wants Esrim Kesef. It's not sufficient that he's Aisher, he has to have same old Aisher. What?
It turns out each one of them getting 2.
Okay, they say that. What? If they divided it.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, fine. Okay, so now, right. Okay, I guess so. In this case, it always says that selling the Evian for Nalayim is the same thing as abusing, as manipulating the grain markets to become wealthy, which is what Yosef did on behalf of Paro. Okay? So now, and in Kehelas it says, you're supposed to do if you're wealthy, you're supposed to just be Raya, which is indeed what Yosef originally told Paro. He said, so what's happening is like this. Why Taka did Yosef do this terrible thing of making Paro rich? Because he's in Paro's employ, and he's not going to survive unless he guarantees Shleim Paro, which means to say he's going to do whatever he can do on behalf of Paro,
Even though he hadn't promised him.
whether it's ethical or not. Yeah, because if he doesn't, some other guy in the court is going to come up with this idea and say, well, look at this Yosef guy, he's such a tzaddik, but we could be making a lot of money now. Maybe ain't enough of a chacham. That's not enough of a chacham, right? So that's the whole problem. We spoke about this. I like Yosef working for Shalem Paray makes Yosef be Paradik. He acts Paradik. So now what's happening? So now going back to our story, I think what's happening is there's two things happening with returning the kesef. One thing is Oyev kesef lo yispa kesef. That's one message. That message is to Levi, who was the ringleader. One of them is in jail. The other ringleader is still free of the sale. So he gives him back his kesef as a message that you never have enough kesef. That's what I want to suggest. That's another thing of giving back the kesef. That you guys are kesef, always running after kesef.
No, it's not the real reason.
What do you mean it's not the real reason? Now what?
They wanted to kill him.
Beseder, but there's a beta. I hear. Okay.
And
Yeah, let's think about that.
Actually, Yehuda was the one that.
Yeah,
Right,
but they ended
right.
up accepting it. So
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I hear. I just want to be more. Fine. Let me finish the whole thing. I want to suggest that there's Oyev kesef leis bekesef. That's one lesson over here. He's like, you guys are the ones who want kesef. You guys are so into kesef because in other words, everyone did. Okay, let's put it this way. Everyone in the story did financial crimes. That's Navi says Navis. One of them, 10 of them sold Evian Bavur Na'alayim, and one of them took advantage of the Egyptians' poverty to enrich the king and abuse the whole nation. Right. So everyone did financial crimes, and Yosef is telling him like this: you're the Oyev kesef leis bekesef. And that's why you're gonna be. It can be you're gonna be framed for stealing kesef. Okay, say it because you're Oyev kesef leis bekesef. Say it. And me. There's the next part of the story. The kesef that I am taking for selling grain, I don't really want to take that kesef. But it's for pirate. Mitzidi, you can have it. So the second returning the kesef is not only to Levi because it's not about Mechirus Yosef. It's about there's two kesefs over here. There's the as almost puts the two together, right? You sold Yosef for money, and Yosef is abusing the Mitzrayim for money. And Yosef is responding to both of them. He's saying, yes, you sold me for money, and therefore you guys are money hungry. Ganovim, take unfair money, and you're going to be framed for stealing unfair money. That's the first story, and that's a message to Levi specifically. That's not Yaakov doesn't have to know about it. There's another message, which is that Yosef, who is a shtickle mitzvah over here, and is acting like a pirate. One second. The next message is that Yosef doesn't want the money, and that message is for everyone, and that message is also for Yaakov.
But that had nothing to do with the Shvatim.
No, but
he would get him in the Mitzrayim. This that he was taking over.
What?
This that he was doing. This that he was doing to the Mitzrayim, nothing to do with the Shvatim.
Right. So what do you mean?
Why is he giving that message to the Shvatim? Why is that?
Okay, because here's the thing. Right. I think his
story?
answer is like this. I think because here he's in Mitzrayim acting like a Mitzri.
Right.
So we have a very fundamental question now. This day Yosef is acting like a Mitzri, which has he switched flags, and he's a Mitzri. He's masking to the Malach of Mitzrayim, or Be'etzim he's a Ben Yisrael, but he's dressing up like a guy.
For his end.
Yeah, exactly. The Achros Tikva. Like it says near me that when Hashem is machshavis, because whenever Hashem is behester, so people have to act in golistic ways. So by interacting with his brethren, the Bnei Yisrael, as a Yisrael, or dafka with them, he's showing that this that I'm doing differently, to us is for these.
He's looking for
It's for that island over here. For you, special deal. Don't worry. For you, I'm not going to steal. That's the point.
It's not me.
Yeah. See, when it comes to the Inzra, he's not going to do it from. That's the point, right? Because it's not me. That's the point. That's the point. So, anyways, the last thing I wanted to say was that the pasuk says, "Mi oyev b'amoyim lo svua." Someone's oyev b'amoyim, he doesn't have tvua. So, we have that question. Why was one of them the pasuk oyev kesef lo is bekesef? The pasuk in right by K pasuk tesef. Mi oyev b'amoyim lo svua, and the one who loves hamoyim, the masses loves a lot. Lo svua doesn't have tvua. So I don't know exactly how to connect this, but we have one of them is opening up his sack in the Maloim to take out the misbite. So maybe that's the loish sevua, meaning he's using up his tvua. The other ones are saving the tvua until they get home. And as Ramban says, they're feeding the chamor is tevin. He's feeding the chamor tvua, maybe because he loves his chamor too much, perhaps. Yeah, sure. So he's not going to have enough tvua. I don't know. Something to think about if you can work it out. But the point is that Levi is being punished uniquely because of that pasuk. Because Levi is bekesef, and the other ones are just they're not really being punished. They're getting a demonstration that Yosef is understands that Osher could be shomer l'bal of l'rasai, and that this Osher from Mitzrayim is actually l'rasai. He's not trying to really amass it for his own good. Okay, he's amassing it for them, and mitzidai he would have just overseen the distribution of wealth and wouldn't have tried to take advantage of the mitzvah. Okay.
The fruit.
What?
The fruit.
The fruit is it?
To bring in the cows.
Oh.